Hey, this is Rich Bocchini, one of the voices of Major League Wrestling, and you're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio.
You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the interactive interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Yes, this is Colonel Robert Parker, and you're in the Wrestling Epicenter.
Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. On the Newsmaker line with us right now is the voice of Major League Wrestling. He is, and help me out with the pronunciation on this, Rich Bocchini. Is that correct?
Oh, it's close. It's Bocchini, but that Bocchini would be acceptable. I'm okay with that.
That's like Steve Buscemi. It's actually Buscemi, but everybody always says Buscemi. So.
Right. Yeah, I could get into the phonetics of it, but people have been butchering my name since I was in Little League, so I'm all right.
So it's Bocchini. Am I got that right this time?
Bocchini, but like I said, Bocchini is acceptable. I wouldn't yell at you for that.
All right, we'll take it. All right, so we are in a Major League Wrestling week right here at WrestlingEpicenter.com because we just had on Filthy Tom Lawler, and we're having you on as well. And all of this, of course, is because of the major event that's happening Saturday night. It's hard to believe that the company has roots that go back to 2002, but this week is the first ever pay-per-view for Major League Wrestling. Thoughts heading into the major event, Saturday Night Superfight?
As I said other times that we've been on live TV with some of the stuff that we've done with beIN Sports, our network, there's no safety net when it's live. So that's a bit of an adjustment, not just for the performers, but everybody really has to work together from, Dave in the truck, who's the director, to the producers, to the lighting guys and the music guys, and all that stuff just has to work together. And I think everything that we've done up until this point has obviously, it's led us here. It's prepped us for this moment. And, I'm excited. I mean, global pay-per-view. It's an accomplishment. We like to say that MLW is kind of the, it's the little company that could, the little engine that could. So I'm excited to get to Chicago and excited to get this thing going.
Very cool. It's kind of funny. I still have on the shelves behind me, on my library behind me, I still have the first ever show that MLW ran on a VHS tape. So here we are,
wow.
Pay-per-view, 17 plus years later. I'm very happy for you guys, and that's, incredible for you guys. So, speaking of first pay-per-views, when MLW started, there was obviously a lot of an attempt to pick up on those ECW fans that maybe didn't have a home. And ECW ran its first pay-per-view, Barely Legal. Many people call that a make-or-break show. Is MLW looking at Saturday Night Superfight as a make-or-break show for the company?
That's above my pay grade. That's probably more of a Court Bauer question. I can just tell you personally that for me, I want to go out and every show I do, really, I want to go out and just have the best show possible. So, I try to focus on things that I can control and not worry about things that I can't control. So, what I can control is just being the best announcer that I can be this Saturday, and working with my partner AJ. I'm pretty sure this is his first foray into live TV. So, just making sure that he's ready to go and really just focusing on putting out the best show that we can put out there. So all the other stuff, as far as whether views or buy rates, etc. I mean, sure, we all want it to be as big as it can be, but I've found over the years doing broadcasting, whether it was in wrestling or in hockey, can't really get too focused on the things that are beyond my reach. So my reach is making sure that I tell the stories. AJ and I tell the stories. I don't want to forget him, but that we tell the stories that need to be told. And I think that for the fans who have been following us, they're pretty much up to speed with what's going on. We're a very storyline-driven company. For the new fans, obviously there's going to be packages and stuff and video packages that explain a lot of the stories, but just kind of interspersing some of those stories and some of those little tidbits in with the match. that's what I can control, and that's what I'm focused on. So make or break, like I said, that's probably more of a court thing. I can just tell you that, we all know that this is a big moment.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on us that maybe weren't before. So, but again, I just look at it, I hate to say with a very narrow focus, but I focus what I need to focus on, and I go and I do my job, and I let the rest kind of fall where it may.
Very good. The next question on my list was actually, who's going to have the call on Saturday night? You kind of just answered that. Yourself and AJ?
Yeah, as far as I know, myself and AJ Kirsch. I don't know if there's going to be, any other surprises or anything like that, but my understanding is it will be AJ and myself.
Very good, very good. We had the opportunity to interview your other broadcast partner, Tony Schiavone, fairly recently, and he was very much praising you. He says that, getting back into wrestling, you were a great partner to have because you could handle the speed of wrestling as it is now versus what he was used to calling decades ago. He had really nice words to say about you. Any thoughts on your time working with Tony Schiavone?
Wow, hearing you say that for the 12-year-old kid that 10-year-old kid that used to sit in front of the TV anxiously awaiting 605 every Saturday night on, I remember it was Channel 17. WTBS was Channel 17 where I grew up on cable.
Yeah, me too.
Right? Yeah. So I've told the story before, but Tony was really one of the first voices that kind of like flipped that light switch for me. Like, oh, wait a minute. Like that's an actual job. You can be an announcer and announce, hockey or wrestling or baseball. And so that's, he was one of the first voices that really kind of piqued that interest in me. So, to hear you tell me that he was praising my work is, that's something that's never going to get old for me. I loved working with Tony. I hope to get to work with him again. He's still, as far as I know, he's still part of the MLW family, but I know he's, obviously very busy with all the other things he's doing. But working with Tony was great. And honestly, I got to learn a lot. He talks about the speed of wrestling and keeping up with it. Mm-hmm. What he taught me was to be able to slow down a little bit and just to kind of take a breath and absorb things a little bit. And really just to have a lot of fun with it. I came from I've been an announcer for a long time, but coming
mm-hmm.
from WWE, there's sometimes a little bit of shell shock when you come out of there as an announcer. And I think sometimes maybe you forget to have fun when you're there with it. That's not to knock WWE. It's not to knock my time there or anything like that.
Right.
But it's just a much different thing. Working with Tony, slow down, relax, have fun with it, and I definitely learned a lot from him, and it was, I still think back to the first day that Court called me and told me that I was going to get to work with Tony. So, wow. That was, if I was a baseball announcer, that would be like somebody calling me and telling me that, hey, guess what? You're working with Vin Scully tomorrow.
Oh, wow. I mean? Yes, I do.
So, yeah.
Vin Scully, Phil
really
Rizzuto, cool. any of those, legendary names that just come to mind when you think of baseball announcer. Harry Carey works too.
Yeah. For me, I'm a Boston guy, or a New England guy, and the only other voice I think that was maybe that influential to me was Fred Cusick, who was the Boston Bruins TV guy, and I got to kind of work with him a couple times. So that there was that thrill, but to actually sit side by side and call a number of shows with Tony was awesome.
Awesome. So here's a strange question I had, and it's maybe you can shed some light on it. Why, you mentioned your WWE run, so it's no secret that you were Rich Brennan in WWE.
Yeah.
Why do they feel the need to change the names?
I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit. Can you?
Why do they feel the need to use different names? Why do they want you to not be, your own name?
Well, that seemingly, seems to change on alternating intervals, based on day of the week and whichever way the wind seems to blow with them. I think it's just more of a thing where they want to have ownership of, whether it's you want to call intellectual property or whatever. For instance, Corey Graves is a name that WWE owns, so. I don't necessarily know that, a play-by-play guy who's not supposed to be, necessarily like an opinionated character. I'm supposed to be the straight man. I don't know that having a, I don't know that, I guess I don't know that, the name Rich Brennan was ever really going to make money. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what the point, I don't know what the point is in corralling that name and having that be a character name. I honestly don't know the reasoning for it, aside from the fact that they just want to own all their intellectual property. I mean, I suppose the anomaly is somebody like Jim Ross or maybe Tony,
right.
who, and that's their real name, but they've become these beloved figures. Most play-by-play guys, you're just kind of a play-by-play guy, and people want to meet you, they meet you, but it's not like meeting a superstar, so to speak, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But the long and short of it is that if you have a name, or if you have perceived value from the outside, then you can keep your name. And if you're just somebody that got brought in from somewhere else, like Michael Cole, that's not his name. His name's Sean Coulter. You know what I mean? And he has a legitimate background as a news reporter. He covered wars. He told, I remember riding with him, telling me some of the crazy stuff that he saw. I want to say he was in Bosnia or Serbia, somewhere over there. And he told me all sorts of crazy stories. And it's like, here's a guy who actually went out and was a legitimate newsman. And, you change his name. So it's one of those things that, like I said, it seems to shift because now you have other folks who have come in who get to keep their name.
Right.
And that's like that with wrestlers too. So, there are guys who come in to get to keep their name and other guys that, for whatever reason, they can't. So
yeah.
There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason besides the fact that, like I said at the beginning, I think they just want to own all the intellectual property, and I guess that makes sense.
Right. It was silly things like that I've always kind of had in the back of my head. Like even when Michael Hayes came in, it's like, okay, he's not Michael Hayes anymore. He's Doc Hendricks, and it's like, well, why don't we just call him Michael Hayes? We all know who he is. But all right.
Yeah, that was always weird to me. But who knows.
There you go. All right, so we've had a chance to interview some former WWE announcers, and they all tell different stories of their time in WWE. Josh Matthews and Mick Foley. Mick Foley was probably the most vocal as not enjoying having people talking in his ear at the time. But what was the experience like calling WWE action? And you talked about shell shock coming away from it. How do you mean by shell shock from being out of the WWE universe?
It's just a very demanding position. I enjoyed it. I never thought I would get there, number one. Mm-hmm. My goal getting into broadcasting, I always thought I'd be calling NHL hockey games by now. And that, I worked in minor league hockey for a long time. That was my goal. It was just kind of a weird left turn that I ended up doing wrestling. I've always loved it, always been a fan of it. But never really thought that I would get an opportunity to call it. So to be there was, I don't want to sound bitter by, if I say, oh, this is difficult or that was difficult, et cetera, because it really was in many ways like this weird dream come true that I was there. But it can be a very, very, very difficult place to work, from the politics to the, I don't mean Democrats and liberals, but I mean the backstage politics that exists for announcers, but just the announcing job itself. A lot of times if stuff goes wrong, whether or not it's you or whether or not it's something that happened in the ring or whatever, a lot of times you're going to be the guy that gets yelled at. It's just kind of the way it is. Things change so rapidly there from minute to minute that the draft of the show that you're working on has probably been updated twice, and maybe you didn't get it for a million different reasons. And you're out there talking about something that was changed 20 minutes ago, but they didn't tell you that it changed. But by osmosis, you're just supposed to know that. So things like that can be very difficult. You need a really thick skin to survive. And you just have to, focus on what can I do to be the best that I can be, and try to block out some of that other stuff. But it can be difficult at times. It's you're very rarely right in that position, or at least from my experience. Maybe I'm stating it, but you're very rarely right in that position. And somebody that I respect a lot, that I enjoyed working with very early on there, told me listen, you're going to go in one week and they're going to tell you, and you probably heard something similar to this before, but they're going to tell you that vanilla ice cream is the best flavor ever. And you're going to put over vanilla ice cream for an hour. And then you're going to show up next week, and ostensibly you're going to start talking about vanilla ice cream being the best flavor ever. And somebody's going to yell at you in your headset and tell you that you're an idiot because pistachio is the best flavor ever. But nobody told you that. So that's, that's for a company as big as it is, you'd think that the communication would be a little bit better at times. But again, it's a product of the environment. It's such a fast-moving environment that for a million different reasons, things can change literally, while the show is going on. And it does very, very often.
Absolutely. I remember Matt Stryker said that he used to leave a different way so he didn't have to encounter the people after a show because he knew that anything he said that they could have ripped on him for, he was going to get. So he just said he took exit stage left instead of walking right into it. So
there's some of that for sure.
All right. So kind of jumping around a little bit, but something I noticed as a wrestling fan is this week I'm kind of pulling my hair out to try to keep up with all the wrestling that there is to choose from this week. You got Raw on Monday, you got the NWA and now Impact Wrestling on Tuesdays, and there's a pay-per-view today. Obviously that's out of the ordinary, but that's happening as we're talking. There's just so much wrestling to speak of, AEW being tonight, that unless you're sitting there watching wrestling all the time, you're going to have a hard time keeping up with it. Is there too much wrestling on TV right now, and how does MLW, as they say, keep up with the Joneses?
I know Court likes to say we play in our own little sandbox, and I think that maybe goes, that's part and parcel with kind of what I was saying before about focusing on what I can focus on.
Right.
To be completely honest, I don't watch a lot of wrestling. I really don't. I call MLW. I call some various indies. I do Defy out in Seattle. Fantastic company. They do some really good stuff. I do some other one-off stuff. Warrior Wrestling in Chicago, which puts a real fun show together. Fest Wrestling in Florida. So I'm doing a lot of different things. So honestly, my week this week is an anomaly because we have a live show this week. There's no post-production this week.
Right.
For the weekly TV show. But usually, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm right in the thick of going through that week's show, and again, things change. So shifting around graphics or shifting around different packages or adding different things. So this is usually when all the post-production happens. And a lot of times, you're working off 2 or 3 different cuts. You'll get a cut and we don't like this, let's fix this. And between doing that and between doing the stuff for Defy, which I do 90% of that from my studio, I only go out there every now and then. Honestly, I don't know how I'd have time to really watch a whole lot of other wrestling. So I'll keep up with stuff, Twitter, the dirt sheets, Reddit, whatever. I've watched NWA Power. I honestly haven't seen a second of AEW yet. I really, I don't know if I should be embarrassed about that, but I literally have not watched a second of AEW. I haven't watched WWE in God knows how long. I mean, every now and then Ring of Honor comes on TV here. If I'm up late at night and it's on, I'll watch it. But honestly, I'm so focused on the stuff that I'm doing between MLW and then the stuff for Defy and then the other stuff. I really don't have a ton of time to watch a whole lot of other wrestling. So I mean, I guess your question was is it too much? I mean, I guess we're going to find out in the next year or two, right?
I guess we will. Yeah, it's like I haven't watched the NWA show from yesterday, and the first 3 weeks it was like the show I looked forward to. There's just too much to watch, so I have it, somewhere on a geek stick, and I'll stick it in my TV and watch it. You watch it tonight, maybe if I have time, but right now it's just like okay, sensory overload. But
yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of stuff. There's probably more wrestling available now for fans than there have been at any time. It's probably the boom period in '87, '88, right? When you had a lot of those promos, even into the early '90s a little bit. Having the availability, obviously, with YouTube and with streaming and stuff like that has made it much easier for some of the smaller independents to put a show together that people actually want to go out of their way to watch. where does that lead the wrestling business? Will there be consolidation, contraction, that type of thing? Wrestling has always been and always will be cyclical. So, I think that right now the best course of action probably for everybody is almost similar to what I've been saying the whole time. I'm not worried about WWE. I'm not worried about AEW. I'm not worried about NWA. I hope they all do well. I hope their shows I hope they're great. I hope the fans love it. I'm focused on, what I'm doing and making what I'm doing the best that it can be. And where that leads, I'm not a soothsayer, right? I'm just focusing on putting the best thing that I can put out there, and again, let things fall where they may, right?
Absolutely. 2 more questions for you, both of them MLW centric. Big pay-per-view this weekend. I'm looking forward to a number of the matches. The main event, of course, the world title match. Tom Lawler's match is a great match. But Austin Aries against Teddy Hart, for some reason, is jumping out at me as a potential sleeper hit. Is there any matches as an announcer you're looking forward to calling the most this Saturday night?
Well, Fatu in LA Park, just because that's the culmination of this story, or we think will be the culmination, right? Who knows what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. The story, obviously, Promociones Dorado with Selena De La Renta has been the big power broker in MLW. She's behind LA Park, and will that flag wave over MLW or just contrary? This rogue bunch of assassins, these almost terrorists, wrestling terrorists, for lack of a better term. They've kind of come in, they've hijacked MLW, they've hijacked everybody, they've got the title. So, where does that leave Selena? Where does that leave the power balance in MLW? And where do we go from here? That's what this Saturday is all about. So, I'm excited for that one. The low-key Teddy Hart matchup, I agree. I think that I'm not low-key Teddy Hart. Teddy Hart and Austin Aries, I should say.
Yes.
Those are 2 guys that are magicians in the ring. So, if there's a style that that's going to be dominant in that match, it's going to be tough to tell because they can both do so many different things. I'm excited for that. And I really think a sleeper match, really, in some ways, could be low-key and Pillman.
I agree.
I think for a guy like Pillman, in some ways, he's almost kind of been, I don't want to say the little brother of the Hart Foundation, but I almost get the sense from him that he feels like he needs to prove himself to Teddy and Davey Boy. So, will he be able to do that against Low-Key? Curious to see. So that's, I think that'll be a fun match too.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that one. There's so many great talents in MLW that you guys have. The Hart Foundation, the Dynasty, just so much great stuff going on. So anyway, last question, and it kind of is a news story. I might be, again, above your pay grade, but what's your thoughts on Krista Joseph coming in as a co-executive producer of MLW TV?
Obviously, a guy with a lot of experience. I've never met him. I'd assume I'll meet him Friday. My understanding is that that's going to be his first day there. I've texted a couple people and just kind of take the temperature. Hey, what do you know? And everything that I've gotten back just said, great guy. You're going to enjoy working with him. So, listen, as a guy who has a lot of experience in the TV industry, a lot of contacts in the TV business. Very, very creative. We saw that with Lucha Underground. I'll be honest, that wasn't really my cup of tea. It was a little too sci-fi for me, but, but I think that type of storytelling, that he did there, I think will mesh well with what we're doing at MLW. Because again, we are a very storyline-centric company. I mean, the action is there, the matches are important, but the storylines are really what drives everything. It's not just all-star matches for the sake of all-star matches. There's stories behind. Exactly. If not 100%, then 95% of the matches there's backstory to them. So I think that'll suit him well. Just again, from everybody that I've talked to, I think that'll mesh well. So excited to meet him, and we'll see where we go from here.
Absolutely. Well, of course, MLW pre-show will be on beIN Sports on Saturday night. That deal for MLW just has proven to be worth its weight in gold, and they've been great to MLW and been a great partnership to see as a fan. And of course, the big pay-per-view is Saturday night Superfight on pay-per-view, basically in any platform that you can imagine. So if you're not ordering it, you got no excuse. You can find it on there. Just contact your local pay-per-view providers, as Mean Gene Okerlund used to say.
I know for, if your cable provider, TV provider doesn't have it, MLW.TV through Fight.tv, you can order it there. I should note that the pre-show as well, that it will be on BN, but if you don't have BN, I believe Facebook, YouTube, I'm probably missing something, but I know it's going to be available on, for sure, on YouTube and Facebook and a couple other places as well. But, that's something that at 7 Eastern, again, if you don't have BN Sports, check it out on YouTube and Facebook, because there's going to be some good stuff. We've got, I think, 3 or 4 matches on the pre-show. So definitely something to whet your appetite. And then the main card, again, MLW.TV, you can order it there, $19.99, and it's going to be a big night in Chicago.
Looking forward to it. Hey, before I let you go, can I ask for one last favor from you before I let you go?
Sure.
Do you mind if I ask for a station ID, just saying this is Rich Bocchini, and you're listening to the Interactive... actually, let's go with my actual name. Let's go with Interactive Wrestling Radio. I used to be Interactive Interviews. I just got to get used to my whole slew of names that I answer to.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
That's the one I'm going to right now. Yes, sir.
Okay. Hey, this is Rich Bocchini, one of the voices of Major League Wrestling, and you're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio.